We are live. Da-da-da-da. Oh, switch that out.
Ooh.
There we go. Yep, we are live. Aja and Snuffy. And I don't know why our names don't appear on our image anymore, but
Yeah, that's odd. Hmm.
see if I hide that. There you go.
Oh, there it is.
Comes back when I hide the banner.
Uh,
Um, Still getting used to this StreamYard thing. But yeah, right now, if you're joining us, welcome. We're gonna, get started soon. Give people some time to get the notifications, come into the room, get themselves settled. Uh, we got some cool stuff to talk about today. I want to be clear about a few things when it comes to climate resilience. We also have this is something that we could talk about now, Denise. We had a Green Goddess event that took place. It was actually something that was hosted by a cannabis company in Haverhill, Mass. They did a Green Goddess event to promote cannabis, promote women in the cannabis industry, and also to promote women being in, I guess it was a golf tournament. I was not able to attend. Also,
are you
golf.
a golfer?
No,
Not at all. No, no, no little interest in chasing a ball around.
I've been. I'll go to like a place to just hit balls for fun.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've actually been on a golf course like to play, and
Mm-hmm.
we didn't even do a full because what's it? Is it 18?
18. Mm-hmm.
We didn't do a full 18. We only did 9, and I had that beginner luck thing when you're not thinking about it and you just hit the golf ball and you're like, oh, look at me, I'm great, and then
Mm-hmm.
and then you go back the next time
Oh,
and you're overthinking it and it just does not go the same way.
right. No, it's the most humbling sport I think I've ever played in my life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you just said, you summed it up perfectly. One hole, you're fantastic. You think you're Tiger Woods. You're like, oh, I could go on tour. This is great. I could make millions of dollars. The next one, you're shanking it into like a protective reserve, and you can't get your ball. And you're like, okay, this sucks. I want
Yeah.
to just break my thing and call it a day.
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, I mean, I like the idea of playing tennis, gosh, of playing golf.
Yeah.
I do like playing tennis. Actually, that's something I did play, and
Hmm.
my arm is all messed up, so I don't play anymore. But anyway, golf though, I liked it because you're outside, and I like
Yeah,
anything that deals with being outside.
it's beautiful. It's
Yeah,
lovely, especially,
around all that
you
green.
know, yeah. Go on. So there was this golf tournament, the Green Goddess Haverhill
Yep,
sponsor.
yep. STEM Haverhill is the name of the company that put it on. It was Green Goddess. A bunch of us, a bunch of local companies in the cannabis space participated in sponsoring the event, spreading the word about it. We can, if you check out our Instagram and also on our LinkedIn, we have some posts about it. But it was all about trying to promote women in cannabis, also women in golf, playing sports that are
Mm.
typically not centered around women being included. So they had that event on Monday, and all of the proceeds for that event are going to a organization called Pose Incorporated. I don't know if you want to pull that up, Denise, so we can maybe share that
Mm.
with.
Pose.
I think it's Pose Inc. It poseinc.org or something like that. Apologies to the people at Pose for not having that handy.
Pose. No, no, hold on. All it brought up was poseinc.org. Let's see what we got here. Power of self education.
There you go.
All right, let me share this. Where am I? Where's StreamYard? Share. Share screen. Share. There we are. Sure. Here you go.
As most nonprofit organizations exist by funding from someone else or funding outside funding. Um, Check them out. Power of Self Education, which is something that I truly believe in. I mean, I paid for my education, but I have been a huge supporter of people not getting themselves into debt and finding other ways to educate themselves when possible. So, this organization looked really cool. The team behind it, Black woman in Haverhill. She ran, I think, for office. I don't remember what it was for specifically, but she's been very active in the community and has teamed up and created this organization. So STEM Haverhill is doing all of this in support of Pose. So wanted to kind of shout them out and make sure that we put some space in our live to talk about it. So go check.
I just put the link in the comments, so go check them out.
Great, excellent. All right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So we'll move that out the way.
Good. There you go. We're back.
And we're back. So that happened on Monday. Also on a personal note, I've relocated to a new location. And getting settled and getting used to the new surroundings and new environment. Very happy with the move. It was one of those things where it did not happen the way that we wanted it to. There were a lot of ups and downs in regards to how we got in this new location. We thought we were going to go one place and then we wound up having to go somewhere else. But at the end of the day, my family and I are extremely happy with where we are. So just wanted to express gratitude. The past, I think, 3 months have been pretty weird when you don't really know where you're going to be. 3 months, your family, or you have a child and a dog, and even the dog was stressed.
Bailey's like, where are we going? What's happening?
Yeah, even Bailey was stressed, and she's just starting to get herself, I think, settled into. Now that the boxes are starting to become unpacked and things are starting to settle, she understands that we're going to be here for a good amount of time, not permanent, but a good amount of time. And we're getting ourselves together, so that's been pretty cool.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. You look good. You look like you're happy.
When I'm able to get into the sun as much as I need to, it's tremendously different for me.
It's a game changer.
Yeah, I'm team boycott winter. So making for real, making plans to not have to go through these harsh New England winters anymore. It's just not good for me physically, emotionally, spiritually, any of it. So we're in a location that's still close to the water, still close to the ocean. That's very important to me and my family, and able to get a good amount of sun. Sometimes maybe too much. It gets hot. It's been hot.
It's been hot.
It's been hot everywhere. Not everywhere, but in a lot of places where it has not normally been this hot. And we'll get into a little bit of that today too. But yeah, we're happy that we're where we are right now.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, it's good to see your face. Haven't seen you in a little bit. Life.
I know. We had the live a couple weeks ago when we talked about solar panels, and but I think you had a wake to attend to. I hope that was okay.
I did. Yeah. People are just, I don't know. We're at that age now where parents of friends are passing at an alarming rate, in my opinion. It just seems like one after the other. But yes, so thank you for giving me the space to do what I needed to do.
Yeah, of course. And then we were in transition last week, so this week we're back.
Boom. Back. Full effect.
Yep, back in full effect. So today we're going to be talking about some updates when it comes to some climate things that have been happening mainly in the U.S., although they are happening everywhere. But today we're focusing mainly on the U.S. And then we're going to talk about something that I think people are missing in regards to climate resilience. I think people are getting confused with the term climate action or climate resilience and sustainability. They're not the same. And we created a survey, Trella Technologies. Let me back up for a second for people who might be new. We do this every time. For me to introduce myself, so just start going. My name is Aja. I'm the CEO, co-founder of Trella Technologies, and
Denise Giannakopoulos. friend and cohort to you. Should I say cohort? Cohort to Aja Atwood, CEO of Trella Technologies.
Yeah. But also known as Snuffy G. So that's why you'll see
True story.
Snuffy G up there. Yeah, so Trella Technologies is about creating sustainable solutions for indoor farming, mainly because of my background as a natural disaster risk engineer. And I've seen over time what happens when there are hurricanes, floods, earthquakes, wildfires, how they impact not just one location, but the greater community, the entire state, sometimes the entire country, and how it impacts businesses as well. So, one of the things that we first created at Trella was Trella Grow LST, which is a system that allows people to automatically train tall plants to grow inside. A lot of people are growing small, short things inside because they're stacking them on multiple levels. But we thought about, well, what about the taller plants? Like if we're going to have to rely on indoor food because arable land is lacking or the climate is changing, then we need to be able to grow a wide variety of things, not just certain types of plants. We got to grow as many different types of plants as we possibly can. And it's great to be able to do it automatically in case people can't be there, or in case you need help, or in case you want to reduce your labor costs. So a lot of this is driven behind my experience in climate disasters. So we're going to be talking today about a survey that we put on Trella Technologies in conjunction with Cannabis Center of Excellence and a couple of other entities like Climate Resources Group, Sam Milton, who was actually a guest on one of our previous lives. This was a survey we did 2020, 2021 timeframe. And we got some interesting results where people think that they're ready for climate resilience. But when you actually look at their responses and dig a little bit deeper, you see that they're really focused on sustainability, waste reduction, being efficient with energy, all great things, but that's not climate resilience. And I want to try to get as clear with people as we possibly can. So if you have a business, a home, everybody, this is, again, something that everyone should be thinking about. You don't have to just wait for these floods and these things to happen to you and just go, now the government has to step in. There are things we can do to protect ourselves. So we're going to get into that a little bit today.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. So I don't know. Should we get started? Let's get started.
Yeah, why not?
All right. Share. This is an article that you snagged.
I did. I wish I didn't. This is some scary shit happening.
Yeah. This is let me zoom in just a little bit more. Oh, that's good. Yeah. This one, 50 days. I mean, we talked
that
about.
That was on July 29th. That was like 4 or 5 days ago.
Yeah. I mean, because we were talking about Lake Powell and some of the water issues that are happening out west. We've been talking about that for several lives past. Now we're getting closer to the countdown of it's okay. Now you have a certain amount of time left, and people and we can actually measure and say you're using X amount of water a day, which now means that you only have 50 days of clean water.
50 days. 50 days. I don't let that sink in, because when I first read it, when it popped up in my news feed, I was thinking, wait a minute, what? 50 days. Not 50 weeks, not 50 months, 50 days. It's a month and a half. Like, that's insane to me. And how did we get here? Yes, I mean, climate has a lot to do with it. I mean, it's the whole reasoning why this Lake Galinas River is contaminated, is because of the wildfires that were caused by climate. And it's lack of water. I don't even know where to begin with this, Aja. But we just can't even keep the water that we have clean because of some of these climate disasters. And so these people in New Mexico and in Las Vegas, the city of Las Vegas, are going to be feeling this soon. Like Las Vegas, just think about Las Vegas, right? You have all those hotels, you have regular people living there, you have a tourist coming in and out, you have just people living their everyday life in Las Vegas. Like that's a lot of people in a small area. And then you have New Mexico, the whole state of New Mexico. Like what is that about?
Yeah.
15 days left? I mean,
Las Vegas is in the middle of the desert, right? So
yes.
And so people are like, well, duh, no.
No, not duh.
They had a supply that got contaminated by wildfire. So, people are talking about, oh, climate is changing, so it's getting hotter, which means that you're using more water, and maybe that's the reason why there's less time. I'm sure that definitely has something to do with it. But in addition to that, on top of it, now you have fires that are breaking out because it's so dry, and the fires are releasing ash, burning materials that travel for thousands of miles.
Yeah.
And then start contaminating bodies of water elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So this isn't something that just is, thanks, Christopher. Appreciate it.
Oh.
Thanks for coming through. Ask any questions. Please continue to comment. We appreciate having you here. But yeah, now you have all these bodies of water that are being contaminated, and these are things that may have happened. Like, I think a lot of this psychology, like, I just think people think about, that's not me. I'm not in that wildfire region, so I don't have to worry about it.
Yep.
Meanwhile, it's contaminating bodies of water thousands of miles away. And I can remember a couple of years ago when I was out in Arizona and there were wildfires going on in, I'm trying to remember which state, because it wasn't close by. That it was about 4-hour drive. No, even further than that, maybe like a 6 or 8 hour drive away. That's where you could see from far away, you could see just a mist, like a grayness in the sky. And when it first started, I was riding a bike that day and I felt fine. 4 days later, I was riding a bike, doing the same trail, doing the same thing, and I could hardly breathe. I was with a friend of mine and both of us were hurting. We had to get off, like I almost passed out. I had to get off the bike and walk for the last maybe mile or so.
That's scary.
Because I was breathing in all that stuff that had eventually migrated our way and started to impact where we were. This is not something that just is out there or their problem. These things affect, once things get into the environment, everything's connected.
Yeah.
Everything's connected. The air pollution in one area affects things in other areas. It's not contained. These are molecules of air. You've got wind, you've got all these things that are moving things around, rivers flowing. Everything is connected.
Yeah, what was it? A couple of years ago, one of the largest wildfires, I think, in California, some of that smoke actually eventually reached us here on the East Coast. I remember seeing it. I remember seeing the haze, and they're like, that's the effects from California. And so if you think that you're untouchable from things that are happening out west or even in a different country, no. We're all in this together, whether you want to believe it or not.
We are all in this together. It says the city relies solely on the water from the river, which has been tainted with large amounts of fire-related debris and ash, according to city officials.
Yep.
They're going to help with this. The governor has decided to put $2.25 million into funding to make water available. But this is for residents and it's for drinking water. So I am guessing, I don't have proof, we haven't researched this. I'm guessing it's going to be like bottled water, processed bottled water that will be shipped in from somewhere else and dispersed to the community.
And that's not even a lot of money, if you think about it.
It's not a lot of money. So I don't know how much they're going to get.
I mean, think about it too. They're going to have to shut down places. People were almost going to have to stay at home to kind of reduce the use of water. Like, you can't go into work, I would think, in a skyscraper and use all that energy and water and sewer. Like, you would have to. This is going to get big. This is going to get big unless they can figure out another way to reroute some water to these communities, whole
Yeah.
states. I mean,
Yeah.
whole states.
I mean, and there are things that can be done, but to have only 50 days to do them.
Right. Right.
I mean, you can fill in water treatment that can, like water, which, you can use to like flush toilets and stuff like that. But you're talking about drinking water. So you can take that gray water, put it through a water treatment facility, sludge dryers, all this type of stuff, which these are like million dollar like facilities that will be able to provide some drinking water. But in order to do it in 50 days, it's going to be pretty tough. And I don't know what the 2.25 million is for.
Yeah, me neither. To ensure residents receive access to safe drinking water. How? Like, are you going to have a spout outside that you have to go to the town square and fill up your jugs? Like, what are you talking about?
It's going to be, I think, bottled water, drive up, pick up because that's what they were doing in Michigan.
That's right. Yep.
They had lines of people driving up, pull up your truck, you get one case of bottled water, because we have to ration it out.
Which still, by the way, Michigan doesn't have 100% good drinking water still either. But that's a different story for a different time. And the whole country is going through a drought right now. So it's like, if you take something from this state, you're going to put the state that you're in, that you're taking it from, at risk too. So when we say, and we say it all the time, things are connected, we mean things are connected. Like, I don't know how many times we have to like say it. Things are connected. You do one thing, it trickles down to everything.
Yeah. There are also technologies out there that are taking water from the air.
Yes, that gentleman. Sorry, go ahead. I got so excited about him.
Yeah.
Let me pull him up. Go ahead, keep talking.
Yeah, pull him up if you can. He because he actually had some of his technology. He's been in Africa, like he's been putting it everywhere, and he actually had one that was in I want to say Michigan, but I'm not quite sure. Nonetheless, I remember hearing a story, unfortunately, that somebody sabotaged the equipment.
Here it is. Texas. He's from Texas.
Yeah.
Oh, hold on. I'm trying to find a most recent article because there's something from 2019, but I know that there's something else. Go ahead, keep talking.
Yeah, but they sabotaged his equipment, and it was providing clean drinking water to the residents, pulling water out of the air. I mean, that's definitely technology that we need. I have not seen a lot of like press about him until that incident where somebody sabotaged it. But I hope that I do wonder to what capacity can he pull water out of the air, because if it's during a wildfire, when you've got ash and soot and stuff, particles flying, there's got to be some sort of an efficiency limit on how much he can filter out. Like, how much can you pull out of the air if it's already that contaminated?
Right.
If anybody knows this gentleman.
Yeah, I found him, but I can't find his name. Oh, Moses West. That's his name. Moses
West.
Atmospheric water generator. Here he is. The Moses West Foundation.
Yeah, pull that up if you want, so people can see something about this gentleman. He's impressive.
He really is. Here we go. And his name is Moses, which is very funny. There he is. There's Moses.
Added to the stream.
Yep.
There's Mr. Moses West.
There he is. And I'll put him in our comments as well.
Yeah. Do they have a picture of his system? There it goes.
There it is. It's like this huge machine. There it is.
Yeah, it was in Flint. Free water.
Hope for Flint.
And in an interview that I saw about that they were asking him, or either I read an article or something, but he said whoever sabotaged his equipment knew what they were doing because they knew exactly like what parts of the components to actually like mess with and
Oh,
so they went in knowing what they needed to do. So incredible. I see gentlemen like Mr. Moses Weston, and it's inspiring for me. There are people out here thinking about these things and trying to be thinking outside of the box. And unfortunately, you know, the duality of our world, where there's good, there's evil.
yeah.
Well,
Oh, that makes me angry. People are just, you're hurting yourself. What are you doing?
they don't see it.
No, I know.
But yeah, so Mr. Moses West, he's got another engineer out there doing his thing to try to get people to be sustainable and resilient and to be self-reliant. I don't know how much one of these atmospheric water generators cost, but
click?
Yeah, click one and let's see. I doubt that he'll have a price up there, but
this is
contact quote. Yeah,
550 liters. Yeah,
because there's so many parts. The supply chain issues. That's the thing that you'll find. Like we deal with this too as a hardware company, because the cost of things change so much when you are creating something that's so big and has so many different parts. It's hard to say how much it's going to cost this month and then 3 months later how much it's going to cost. So you need to request quotes from people so that you get the most up-to-date quote, because it may change over time, over a short time span.
This one, the smallest one, is 145 gallons of clean water a day. Wow.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Very cool.
So yeah, there's that's going on in Vegas. Let's maybe go on to the next one. And then in the opposite direction, where you don't have enough water, in this direction, we've got, unfortunately, too much rainwater in a short amount of time, creating incredible flooding in the state of Kentucky. Mr. McConnell's state. I'll let you jump on that, but on that too.
I mean, just that headline, it was bound to be catastrophic. So to me, they've known about it for a long time, and we know politicians make decisions, and Mitch McConnell doesn't seem to care about his home state. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, but that knowing that everything's gonna be they know, everybody
knows.
People know, they just don't want to say, and they're hiding information. I have proof of it, but I won't get into that right now.
That's a different segment.
That's a different. Yeah, I'm still evaluating. Do I want to even go there, because I have proof of it, and I don't know. I don't know what good may come of it, and whether or not it should be shared. I'm still processing how I want to communicate that to the greater public. But needless to say, people know how bad things are, and they're not sharing it or putting their heads in the sand. So no, it was bound to be catastrophic. This one, record rain combined with the region's topography was a recipe for disaster. Topography, for those that might not know that term, just to be clear, topography is the landscape. Not so much. Some of it is the elevation. So you could have like flat land, or you could have hilly land, or land with mountains. You could have grass. You could have asphalt, concrete. The different topography will change what happens when the water hits the ground. So, for example, rains on a parking lot in Walmart. Picture parking lot Walmart, torrential rain. Sheets of water are flooding across the parking lot, filling in stormwater basins. Stormwater basins, if they're not cleaned and kept properly or designed properly, will overflow, and then the water will start to raise up. Versus a bunch of rain falling over a farm land that's got maybe some elevation changes, and they've got some greenery and some bushes and different types of plants. That water will hit the leaves, slows it down a little bit, dribble off the leaves, hit the ground. The soil will suck up some of that water, and the water will go down into the soil. And at a certain point, maybe the water will start to raise above the surface of the ground. But because of that, because of the soil, because of the leaves, because of the greenery, the impact of having water elevate and become a flood is a lot less. So what happens is in 1950s and 1960s, the big move of suburban America took place. You know, everybody's moving out of the cities, and they started building up all these, suburban, what do they call them? Suburbias, where you just got houses after houses, and all these malls, and all these parking lots, and all these, big facilities, removing all the greenery, removing all the shrubs, removing all the grass. So now when it rains, there's nothing there to soak it up and to slow it down. It just starts to become sheets of water flowing. It goes into supposedly designed stormwater basins that were designed in 1960s. And usually when people design things, they design them to the minimum building code. All building code is minimum. If you say something is still the building code, it means nothing to me. It just means you did the minimum.
Right.
So if you build it to the minimum, 1950, 1960s, and you had your parking, you had your Walmart or your store, and then 10 years later, there's 7 more stores, and 15 years later, there's 30 more stores in the area. You've significantly changed the topography. Right. It's not what it was before. So when you have incidents like this that have heavy rain over topography that's changed over time, it's bound to be a catastrophe. So if I drill down a little bit, you'll see people having to be rescued. There were lots of images and pictures of this. And these are rural areas that are already kind of in flat land.
Yeah.
But 14 to 16 inches fell during a 5-day period beginning about a week ago.
Wow.
And we're just starting to get news about, unfortunately, people's lives that have been lost. People are still getting rescued. They're still, this is a week from now.
Oof.
Roads impacted. So this here was some sort of a structure that it floated down and landed somewhere else. Let me see. There was something else that here it is.
Yeah, here it is. Yeah.
This is what I meant when I said over time. After another contributing factor to the flooding is that the engineering infrastructure for stormwater removal for many cities and towns around the country was engineered for the rainstorms of the 70s and the 60s and prior, Shepard said. But storms are now raining with much more vigor and intensity than 50 years ago.
See, that's what I mean about some of these things. When we start drilling down to the smaller communities, we are more reactive than preventative in our thought process. We are more like, oh, let's wait to see what happens and then think about it. And then, oh, wait a minute, that's too much money. We can't overhaul the whole system. We'll just do it in piecemeal. That's what drives me absolutely bananas. Like we have some of the forethought, we have some of that vision for the future, but yet we refuse to act on it before it's too late. And we find ourselves in these positions time and time again in almost every aspect of our living. And it boggles my mind that we still haven't learned from any of it. We didn't learn from what happened with Katrina. We didn't learn what happened in Flint. We didn't learn what happened across the country. Because like we said earlier, they knew it was coming. They just didn't want to do anything about it. They didn't want to update the 1970s and 60s storm wastewater removal. Like, come on. There are so many innovative and technological advances from the 60s and 70s to help with stormwater and people littering and clogging up the drains and all that other stuff. There's so much technology out there, but yet we refuse to do it because money, power.
There's no immediate financial benefit.
Right. There's no immediate financial benefit.
And as a, as a risk engineer, and it looks like my internet's being funky again, so I don't know if that's true. Let me know if you can't hear me, Snuffy.
You're good.
Oh, okay, good. This is the one thing I don't like about StreamYard is they tell you when your Wi-Fi is like acting up, and sometimes I wish I just didn't know.
You're a little pixelated, but I can hear you fine.
Okay. We got a new modem coming, supposedly Xfinity. But yeah, when there's no that was one of the things that I struggled with as a risk consultant, and working for an insurance company. A lot of the clients just figured, well, the insurance company will pay, so why would I why would I set aside money in my own pay to my needed for a flood out of why would I pay for that? If it happens, it happens. And that's just really not when you see the level of impact that these types of events have. You don't want like every little thing, everything becomes a problem. Everything becomes a problem, and it can just be it's just frustrating. I think sometimes that people don't want to put aside a budget to plan ahead.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's what this is. So moving forward, that was what I wanted to talk about was these things are outdated. You mentioned something about the technology and things that are out there to help with this. The American Society of Civil Engineers, ASCE, American Society of Civil Engineers, they're the ones that are tasked with recalculating and doing what are called hydraulic. How do we say this? Hydraulical hydrology studies.
Okay.
How much water, how water will flow with the topography over time. They should be doing this. I think their goal was to do it like every I'd have to double check my notes, but I think the goal is to do it every 10 years or less, to redo a study every 10 years. They don't have the manpower for that. So some of it is funding to get more manpower to actually have the engineers go out, redo these studies to figure out, oh, we do have a problem. I mean, we already know we have a problem, but here's how bad the problem is. And then next step is, what do we do to solve it and to mitigate it? And that there hasn't been funding put aside for that either, because again, there's no immediate financial impact. I'm telling you, if you've ever experienced something like this, you would understand the importance of planning ahead. This stuff has significant impacts for years down the line. It's not just, Kentucky, these areas will not be the same. This will affect Kentucky's GDP, their ability to generate revenue for the state, which means taxes, which means now they're going to lose more money that they could be using to potentially fix things like this. It has impacts over decades after, not just this season, but this will affect Kentucky 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now. Just it's impacted, New Orleans and Katrina still impacted by it.
Right.
So we need to be prepared. And we've been talking in the last live, talked about solar panels and things that people can do, but solar panels are there to help you be sustainable so that you don't have to rely on the power grid. But if your solar panels are impacted by climate, you're still out of luck. So you got to think ahead. All these great, like this gentleman's atmospheric water generator, that's great. Get it. Don't put it in a flood zone, please.
Right.
Don't even put it within 1,500 feet of a flood zone, because the flood zones are all off anyway. Like I mentioned, they're supposed to be updated every 10 years. That never happens. These flood maps are bad. They're out of date. They're old. So you got to think ahead, when you're spending money on all this tech, all this innovation, it doesn't help if you put it in a situation where it's going to get damaged and not be able to sustain you, your business, your family, your livelihood, etc. So the next thing we're going to move on to, and let me just.
It's a nice little segue.
The next thing we're going to move on to is the this survey that we did in partnership with. Oh no, I'll leave it the way it is. In partnership with a few other entities, Mariam McNabb, it should be Dr. Mariam McNabb of the Cannabis Center of Excellence. She's here in Massachusetts. A couple of her comrades. Trella Technologies was a part of this survey, and also Sam Milton, who, as I mentioned prior, if you go back a little bit, he was actually a guest on one of our lives of Climate Resources Group. Back in 2020, we got together and decided, let's do a survey on the cannabis industry and ask some questions when it comes to corporate social responsibility, sustainability, etc. And when we were putting the survey together and creating all the questions, I kind of raised my hand and said, can we throw in a question about like climate resilience and see if anybody's actually thinking about natural disasters? And we did that. And I wanted to share some of those results with the audience. This is something that you have access to. It's free to download. I think we had about 60 participants in this survey. Here's the abstract for you to read through. But the real part is to actually, you can download it or you can just open it and view it. So we'll open this up and take a look at it real quick. I want to show you something. So this is the actual survey itself. Zoom in. How's that, Denise?
That looks good.
Okay. So this is the survey, and we asked, let me scroll down to the climate section. Pardon me, I have two screens, so I'm turning my head to go to the other screen. So let's see that part right there. So the survey then asked about the broader issue of climate change and what preparations businesses were doing to reduce the risk of climate-related impacts, as well as how they were engaging in certain practices to mitigate their own impacts on the climate. So if you look at, though, this here, let me just hide this so you can see that bottom text. So if you look at the results, we took the results and kind of put them in a quick pie chart so it's easier to view. On the left pie chart, you can see that 56% of respondents had made preparations, 30% remained unsure about the issue and its significance, and 12% had not done any preparations at all. So just looking at that, like that chunk of 56%, you're like, okay, at least the majority made preparations, which seems good, but we'll get into that. On the other side, you've got 70% respondents noted that they were preparing for more erratic weather conditions, including storms and droughts, and the other 50% had concerns about higher outside temperatures affecting their cultivation climates. Other respondents did note risks of inland flooding, rising sea levels, and increased frequency of wildfires as key concerns. So it feels like to me that people are aware that their cultivators, at least, are aware that there is a risk. The next thing we decided to do, though, however, was to ask them, and let me go back to my screen. We wanted to ask them specifically, what are you doing? So this is where here we are. We also asked for specific descriptions of what their climate change preparations involved. And here are, in quotes, a few different responses that we received. So these are people who are aware of climate, and this is how they're handling it. So they created inputs of fertilizers and biostimulants to reduce their reliance on supply chain variables using living soil and local material inputs to benefit local wildlife and pollinators. These are great things to do, but I read this and I say this is a sustainability change. This is not something for climate. Having your own inputs, your own fertilizers, are great. But if you're in a flood zone or exposed to wildfire, all of that, everything burns, everything gets wet, everything is impacted. It doesn't matter that you didn't have to go to an outside supplier to get it. Especially when everything is internal, when you have internal, materials, you really need to be concerned about your risk to that facility because it shuts everything down. The next response was hybrid greenhouses. I utilize dry farm techniques and reserve stored winter rain, water, and grow. That's great. As a company, our electricity consumption is near zero. Great things from sustainability perspectives, but how are you generating that electricity? Are you using natural gas? Are you using solar panels? Again, we talked about solar panels and hail damage a couple of weeks ago. The greater part, and if you want to check that out, I definitely suggest that you do, because what I mentioned on that last live when I talked about solar panels and hail was that the solar panel manufacturers, they have come up with ways to test whether or not their solar panels will be impacted by hail. There's hail testing procedures by UL. They do this. However, the test is very limited. It only tests using, they basically make fake hailstones. But it only tests hailstones that are 3 inches in diameter. However, the greater swath of Midwest US, like almost the entire middle of the country, gets hail that's bigger than 3 inches. Mm-hmm. So if you have solar panels and you ask your manufacturer, hey, is this tested for hail? They're going to go, yep, you're good. But you don't know that your area, Colorado, Texas, Oklahoma, Kentucky, you don't know that your area actually has the chance of getting hit by 4 inches, 5 inches, 8 inches, 10 inches, 12 inches. Like hailstones come in all variety of sizes. So to go out and put energy into all these things, like buying all this equipment to have your own to not be reliant on these external factors is great. Like if I consult that, like that's part of our consultation is to reduce your reliance on external factors. But when you reduce your reliance on external factors, you have to also be very aware of the risk that you have because you have to protect everything that's internal. So if you're in a flood zone, if you're in hail, if you're close to, areas that are known to have wildfires, and even I wouldn't even just go based on that. Go based on, climate is changing, so those areas are expanding. If you have that situation, you really need to be forward thinking. And it's not just about getting the equipment that helps you to reduce your costs. It's also about having the equipment that helps you to reduce your costs and making sure that you design it, install it, and maintain it so that when these things happen, your equipment still works for you. Making plans, this one here is making plans for our own well water rather than relying on town and city supply. Again, if you're close to a wildfire and dust and all that stuff is traveling, that's not going to help. Having your own well doesn't help this type of stuff, guys. Right. This is sustainability. This is not climate resilience. So I think a lot of people are confused, and I'll go back to my banner. A lot of people are confused about what climate resilience really is. And they think that they're doing the right thing, and then they're moving in the right direction. But you got to do another step. You got to go a step further and think about the environment that's changing around you and how that's going to impact your business, your community, your family, your employees. A lot of people think, well, I'm not in a flood zone.
Right.
So what do I care? But you're not thinking about the fact that the majority of your workforce probably lives in a flood zone, and when it floods, they're and their homes are flooded, they're impacted. They're not going to be able to show up for work. You can have the most dedicated team, the most dedicated employees, but you can't expect them to come to work when they've been impacted this way, and they won't be there for weeks.
Yeah.
So it's not just about the equipment, it's also about your labor force, making sure that you have some sort of a plan to keep operating when you don't have 10, 20, 30 people, in there maintaining your plants and running your facility. So think about that too. It's not just your equipment, it's also your community. Your community gets impacted, your business will be impacted. And yes, you may have insurance, but insurance does not cover the cost of your customers going somewhere else because you are out of business. Customers go somewhere else when you're out of business. They usually don't come back. You lose your market share. You go out of business. Trust me, I've been in this industry for a long time. The majority of companies that have a loss like this, they may be back up and running, but at 2 years, 3 years, they're usually out of business again. And it's usually because of loss of market share. Their customers, their clients, their vendors have gone on to somebody else. So community, business, it's all, I think, like we talked about before, it's all connected. It's all connected. Yeah. But if you are aware of this and you want more about, are you prepared?
Say it again. Oh, hold on, you're in and out.
I'm pixelating again.
Yeah. All right, talk now.
I was going to say, if you're not sure if you're prepared or confused, hit us up. That's my forte. This is what I do. Is think ahead and create solutions for problems that we think are going to come. I've been trained to do it. I think I'm naturally, my brain is naturally wired that way. That's one of the reasons why we created a system that will automatically grow tall plants indoors when nobody else was thinking about this. But you need to have automation sometimes because you need to be able to think about instances where you may not have access to the facility, you may not have labor, etc. There's so much that you have to think about ahead. And you got a lot on your plate because you're running a business. We can help you with that. So feel free to schedule a free consultation. We'll get to know each other, get to know your business, get to know your questions, your concerns, and see what we can do to help you protect your business, your livelihood, your legacy. I know for a lot of people out there, this is your legacy. You don't want to just be looking at the day-to-day bottom line. You have to think 5 years, 10 years from now. And maybe this year you don't have a flood, but things are changing. So please think ahead. Please, I beg of you. You don't have to come to me, but just think ahead. Anything else any questions that I maybe didn't talk about when it comes to these survey results? I'll remove
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Great. And then also, if you're a supporter, I know there are people that may or may not be in the industry, but they just love what we do. And they like our forward thinking and the innovation and how we're focusing on something that is, different. We're focusing on something that's different. Let me hide this. And being innovative and trying to think about solutions of a problem that is going to affect us all when it comes to growing things indoors. This is just one product that we have. We have ideas and other things that we are innovating and thinking about when it comes to how do we make sure that we can grow whatever it is that we want, wherever we want to grow it. So that may mean growing things in locations that are exposed to flood, exposed to wildfires, exposed to all these things. We still need to grow food.
Right.
We still got to sustain ourselves. We got to start thinking about that. That's what we do at Trella. If you want to become an investor, this is not just a donation. This is something that you're getting in exchange. If you want to become an investor, time is running out. Our campaign ends on August the 24th. So you got about 3 weeks from today to become an investor in Trella. You can see at the bottom of the screen the URL that's going by. You can go to wefunder.com, or you could simply go to trella.io and click the investors tab. There's also a pop-up that will come up, so you'll see it there. But go to wefunder.com and search for Trella, or type in the full URL. Maybe Denise, we can drop that URL in the chat too.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Can do that.
And, yeah, check it out. I mean, there are people. I just want to show real quick this. Some of the comments of what people say. Some of our investors and our supporters, what they're saying about why they invest in Trella, and and what the need is, a sense of urgency that people have. Alternative growing methods for food are essential in a world where the climate will be changing drastically. So people get it. We grow lettuce aquaponically, but we got to grow more. I appreciate that, BJ. Thank you very much. We have Lynn. Alternative ways of growing all types of plants, and that's the other thing too that I'm against. It's kind of frustrating to have started out with cannabis, and people on a federal perspective, people pigeonhole us as a cannabis company. We're bigger than that. We're plants. Cannabis is just another plant. The fact that we segregated it out and treated it like a scheduled drug substance does not mean that it's still not just a plant. It's just a plant that provides medicinal values, as all plants do. Everything we eat is medicine. Well, not everything we eat. All real food is medicine. Every time you're feeding yourself, you're either healing yourself or killing yourself. I hate to be that drastic, but that's exactly
well, it is what it is.
But that's what it is. You're either healing yourself or you're killing yourself. Pick it every time you eat a meal. So to us, growing all types of plants indoors is key. And cannabis is a very essential an essential plant that needs to be grown indoors and part of this this movement. So we really treat all plants the same. So anything, growing plants, food or marijuana, that's what we're about. So thank you very much, Lynn, for catching that. Let's see what else. This gentleman here, Martin D, loves it for the space travel industry. I mean, that's another thing too, that, there are people who are trying to jump ship. The earth is changing, and some people have decided that they want to get resources on other planets. We'll see. But being able to, if you're going to be traveling through universes, you're going to need, food. And there's been movements of people growing in space shuttles, but again, limited. Microgreens, herbs, small things. But what about the big things? What about cannabis? What about all the other types of plants? You got to be able to make space and grow anywhere, in a space shuttle, in a container farm, underground, because that's going to be a necessity as well. All these areas are tight spaces. You're going to want to be able to grow tall plants. That's what we're trying to do. So thank you to all of these investors who have invested in us and then took it the next step and actually put comments in. Really appreciate it. I like the ride, and we'll hang in there. Thanks, Charles, and Jackie. These two are commenting, liking, even our posts, our social media stuff. They're pushing our stuff for us too. So we love regulation crowdfunding because you get investors and you get supporters all rolled up into one. So if you like what we do and you want to become a part of the journey and you want to also have some skin in the game, have some sort of sense of ownership, please don't wait. Time is running out. Become an investor. So that is it. That's my spiel, which I probably should have done at the beginning, like I was supposed to be doing. We'll get it.
It's okay. Don't you worry. Don't you worry.
Yep. So we'll be back next week, Denise.
Yeah, we'll see you next week.
We'll see everybody next week. Thank you for those who joined during the live. Thank you to those who are joining on a recorded version. Please share, subscribe, like. These algorithms they're not cool. They're not loyal, as they say.
They're not loyal.
Those are not loyal.
Math is hard.
All right, everybody, man. Peace, man. Love. See you.
Bye, guys.